Hello and welcome to Digitizing Complex Insurance Forms and Automating Workflows with Airkit. Today's webinar is sponsored by Airkit and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Scott Becker. I'm from Actual Tech Media and I'm excited to be your moderator for this special event. Now, before we get to today's great content, we do have a few housekeeping items that will help you get the most out of this session. First off, we want this to be an informative event for you, so we encourage any questions in the questions box in our webinar control panel. Not only will we have team members responding to questions during the live event, we'll also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the presentation where we'll discuss in greater detail some of the top questions that you have. That Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues that you might be experiencing. A browser refresh will fix most audio, video, or slide advancement issues, but if that doesn't work, just let us know in the Q&A and we will provide further technical assistance. Now next, in the handout section of your webinar control panel, you'll find that we're offering several resources, and I'd especially like to call your attention to two links from Airkit. One is a Getting Started link, and the other is a link to reach out to Airkit through their Discord channel. You can reach those links at any time during the presentation, although I encourage you to do them now while you're thinking about it so that you don't forget before the event ends. Now, at the end of the webinar, we will be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one lucky registrant. Of course, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. Official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can also be found in your handout section. Just scroll to the bottom there and you'll find the prize terms and conditions link. Now, finally, one of the best benefits of this event is the opportunity to ask a question of our expert presenters. So to help encourage your questions, we have a special additional prize for you. That's another Amazon gift card, this one for $50 for the best question. So at the end of the event, after it's over, we'll look at all the questions that came in, pick out the very best one, and contact that prize winner. So with that, let's get to today's fantastic content. So we have Austin and Zach from this company called Airkit that works with insurance companies. So Austin, take it away.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks everybody for being here. My name is Austin. I'm part of the product marketing team at Airkit. We've got Zach Hotoff, who runs a bunch of the product team. Before we get started, I've got two questions for y'all. One, if y'all can, I just want to start getting folks chatting. I'm curious, one, where in the world or where in the country are folks dialing in from? If y'all could start dropping that in here so we see where things are clustered. And then as folks are doing that, we've got some great content that we've prepared today based on our experience working with leading insurance companies. But I also wanted to make sure that before we get started, that any top of mind questions y'all have, we can get, like if y'all start asking those questions or saying what you want to get out of the time today, if you can drop that into the chat as well, we will customize the content on the fly. Based on any questions that you guys have leading into it. I'll give you all a second to start dropping that stuff into chat. All right, while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Zach. Zach, you're coming to Airkit from like a background in Salesforce and a lot of other front end applications. Is that correct?
That is correct, Austin. Yeah, and so I actually just hit my 1-year anniversary here at Airkit, and so let's go back in time. About 1 year ago, I was at Salesforce for about 7 years working on digital experience platforms, and what we primarily saw was building websites and portals. And as customers were kind of delivering these, there was something missing, right? They were showing up, their consumer was showing up to these complex portals, unable to kind of figure out what was the next step to do. And solving those self-service problems became harder and harder as those portals got bigger and bigger. And so I saw this company Airkit pop up and I was like, wow, this is exactly what I've been trying to tell everyone at Salesforce. These really lightweight experiences, pushing customers step by step exactly through that individualized journey. And I jumped ship. I was like, I got to go work at this company, find the next way to kind of bring great customer experience to customers, especially of legacy businesses. So that's my story there, Austin.
And like as we start moving through the slides, I think there's an intro slide which we've already kind of gone through, but there's a couple of like uh, macro industry trends that that we really care about. That's correct, right?
That is correct. And let me start jumping through these slides here and get into it. So I think we've all heard this word before, right? We've heard digital transformation. And it's meant a lot to a bunch of different people, but overall what we've seen is that really our customers just want to be able to solve their problem and for us as customers to kind of meet them where they are, right? And so as we've been going through this process of building traditional portals and trying to find a new way to solve our customer problem, we've been focused on how do we actually deliver on taking all of that information and automating it through our legacy systems so that we're getting the richest amount of data back into the hands of our customer. And then finally, delivering it quickly. So taking these experiences and with small engineering teams or even small, like individuals themselves, having the ability to deliver these great experiences.
And when you say automation, you're gonna give a demo about what you mean by automation later. And I think there's always a tension, particularly when we talk about insurance businesses, where there's a real tight balance between how like a personal touch, particularly like during a life event or a crisis, a moment. And then, but then also sort of like streamlining those customer interactions and making use of data. So I want to tease that out there because I know you're going to give a demo about how we think about automation. But as you start teasing stuff out there, I think that's a really important part as we go on to the next slide.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll even jump into the next slide because I think the story is going to tell exactly kind of what customers have been facing as they've tried to go through that digital transformation process. We've all been starting with this, right? So 20 years ago, pretty much everything was focused on that paper form. And when the whole wave of digital transformation was beginning to get pushed into kind of the executive level priority, we were promised this new rich experience of how do we take the web and solve this problem in a brand new way. Unfortunately, what we ended up doing is taking those exact paper forms and creating a digital version of a paper form. We took that same flow, that same, unpersonalized process and actually built a paper form, but in a digital flow. And so we're missing this huge opportunity to help our customers imagine how to solve their businesses in a brand new way. And some businesses have actually been taking that as kind of the forefront of their business. So as we look to Lemonade, Airbnb, and Uber, each of these companies was able to take their individualized business of insurance, short-term housing, and inner city rideshare and revolutionize how the customer experience could actually adopt each of those individual businesses. So
I
I
I
think,
think one of the things
yeah,
that you're teasing into here is that like when all we're doing is taking a PDF form and just adding it to a website rather than leveraging the possibility of digital technology, we're sort of missing an opportunity to innovate on the customer experience. And going back to the reality of insurance businesses where the personal touch matters so much. Like find that tension between how do we deliver a cutting edge customer experience while also maintaining that personal touch. That's a real point of tension, particularly when there's legacy technology.
exactly right. How do I take my legacy technology, great feed into, we have systems, right? We have systems that we've been using for years. We have customers that we've been serving for decades. And in order for us to actually evolve to kind of compete with some of these new age companies that get to kind of cheat, they're starting with new technology, they're starting with kind of best in class systems. We have to find a way to actually unlock our current systems to deliver these great customer experiences because we need to ensure that we're still building that level of trust with our existing customer base while also making sure that any new customer is experiencing that same level of customer experience that this new generation is being promised. So finding ways to kind of break our our old systems out and kind of unleash them, essentially, building through APIs and allowing these digital experiences on the front end to kind of mask any sort of older technology we might be operating on the back end while we look to swap those out over time. That allows us to accelerate that digital transformation and deliver on customer expectations. And so it really ties down into kind of three big things. One being incredibly simple. And I think that ties into like that paper form. We're going back to a paper form that could have been sent to all 50 states. And if I'm a customer in California, I want to only have the questions that I need to fill out. I don't want to see the questions that someone in Texas might need to fill out. We want to reduce that form to exactly what we need in order to push that customer through and really reduce NIGO. And then personalized experiences. We have these customers that have been with us for decades. We have information that we can use to help them actually push through that document even faster. So why don't we give them that accelerated starting point, pre-fill those documents with their name, that information that they already have, and only try to get the information that we need in order to get through a new customer experience. And then finally with brand, right, we want to make sure that we're building these branded experiences so that our customers have that loyalty built into the system, that the look, the feel, and kind of the tone of voice of our business is being presented properly, even at scale.
So I think there's I really want to call out one of the points that you're making right now, because you're talking about leveraging existing data that we have in these legacy systems. And I think that that's actually a real challenge that insurance companies are facing, is they know that they have the data, but getting the data from those legacy systems through to the customer thing, I think like that's a real challenge. And I know you're going to talk about that, but I just want to bubble that up because I think that I would expect a lot of the folks in attendance to be paying attention for that sort of information.
Exactly. I think the highlight of what you'll see today is exactly that. How do you break legacy systems? And when I say break, maybe the wrong word, unleash, right? How do you take an existing legacy system and turn it into a great customer experience? And that's kind of going to be the ongoing theme of what we see today. So I'll jump into that big punchline everyone probably sees on that slide, that Airkit is that development platform for simple, branded, personalized insurance applications. And we'll show you in this next slide how we're able to accomplish that. Because it always starts with the customer, right? Our job is to meet the customer where they are. So whether it's on web or an omni-channel approach, and the way we pitch omni-channel is just meeting our customer at exactly the point at which they need to solve the problem. So whether it is web or chat or email or notifications or any other API level experience, we have the ability to tap into those and build this journey on a system of action. And that's what we kind of pitch Airkit as. How do we take each individual customer touch point and drive this experience all the way through while collecting that information and pushing it in and out of our legacy system? So tapping into Salesforce, Guidewire, Duck Creek, or any other system that you might use, even homegrown systems that have API endpoints, we can bring that information from the back end all the way out to the customer and then bring it right back into those legacy systems to make sure that everything is up to date, everything has that full 360-degree view of the customer, and we're driving that customer through a great customer experience and journey.
Can you just dig into really quickly, like, is it complicated to build the connection points to leverage the data off of those APIs inside of Airkit, or is it easy to make those connections?
I think it's incredibly easy because we do support REST, we support GraphQL, we support SOAP, pretty much any of the kind of API connections of even what SOAP is, I think, hitting almost 15, 20 years at this point, kind of wild. But any of those systems, we can allow you to tap in, bring that data into a new format, and actually share it even across other systems, right? So regardless of how your agents are operating, whether they're in Salesforce or Guidewire, et cetera, they can get that full picture of the customer as they hop through internal platforms. So having that kind of seamless flow, not just for your customer, but even for your agent as well, is going to help them reducing reduce the time that they're working with individual customers and provide a much better high touch experience for those complicated issues. So it all starts with a journey, right? And we like to break our journeys down into kind of individual goals and pieces. The first step is intent. We have a customer that needs to solve a problem. We need to figure out fast what that problem is, and that it allows us as Airkit to kind of deliver that individualized journey up front to push that customer through kind of their pipeline. The next step is actually getting them from beginning to end. So allowing them to self-service their entire flow, having those pre-filled forms, having the right components in the right place to get that information in, as well as even run these long-running processes. Which brings us to nudging. I might imagine the old days of having that paper form, and you've got it all over the house. It's on your desk, it's hidden behind a cabinet, your kids ran away and stole it. That is the old way of doing forms. The new way of doing forms is, as we're helping this customer through a digital form, we can send them a text and let them click on a link, and they're brought to exactly the point at which they last filled out that form. So whether it's a 1-step form or a 7-step form, we can help them nudge kind of all the way through and make sure that we're completing that process and reducing NIGO.
Here's a question. We've got these digital journeys, and there was a question from the audience about can you think of an example from one of our customers about a very complex one of these forms and how Airkit helps handle that?
Yeah, so I was on site with a customer maybe about 4 months ago, and we were doing a kind of a customer hackathon, really like thinking about the user experience of their customers. And this was a big insurance company. And one of the problems during COVID that they ran into was that spouses weren't always in the same location. But sometimes you actually had to build these experiences where you had to collect 2 different signatures on the same digital form. And the way that used to be done was, you had a paper form, first person would fill it out, and if that spouse was in a different state, they'd mail it up, send it to that other person to go and fill out, and you're suddenly creating this incredibly complex experience. So when we sat down with that customer, we could think of a digital journey where, wow, not only are we getting this form on our phone, but with as simple as putting in that other spouse's email or phone number, we could send them that exact digital form, collect their signature, and the original kind of signee was able to get notified when their spouse filled it out. So we reduced that like time to actually completing that form from several weeks down to just a few days. And that was like a huge eye-opening moment for our customer of saying, wow, this is actually their customers were happy with the way that it was being done. And they were getting an incredible like new experience that looked and felt good because it was branded to exactly what they wanted. So great question. And that was, really fun to see kind of like our customer have that moment of this is a new way that we can solve an old problem. But I do want to get to, once we've solved those self-service problems, we can actually begin to provide what I call proactive service and anticipate problems that might arise from certain customers. Rather than waiting out for a customer to find out about a problem and reaching out to customer service, we can begin to see the problems that might arise and let customers know about a certain situation that might be coming up so that they can proactively solve this problem before reaching out to us and reduce our call center's need to kind of have incoming calls, but actually extend out and push information into the hands of our customer. And so the way that we're able to deliver all of these great journeys is through our Airkit Studio. And it starts with that personalized engagement. We allow you to build those controls and actually have that branding technique to notify your customers at the right time and at the right place. And we do that with these web form experiences. And so actually dragging and dropping individualized controls and creating the logic that you need, and we'll jump into this soon so you can kind of visualize exactly that. But having the controls and variables to configure these long-running forms and pull in and push out the data one needs as you actually operate through the experience, and then extend it in an omni-channel approach, right? So not just a web form, but how do we take that web form and meet our customer where they are. So whether they're using, Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or, Google Business Messages, we can create a trusted branded experience across these digital channels and allow our customer to opt in to be able to fill out the form exactly at the point at which they need to. And then once we've done all that work, right, of collecting the data and bringing the data in, we can bring the data back and forth between our legacy systems as well as our newer systems as well, and essentially allow our customers' experience to be unchanged as we're operating and updating any sort of backend experience.
How do we ensure when we're building these fields to collect data, how do we ensure the accuracy and the precision of the data? Are there like validation rules or things that we can do to ensure that we're collecting the right information and we're not missing anything?
And that's a very timely question, because we are introducing a ton of new validation rules as well. Those just went live last month to actually validate long-running forms, so that as you're operating through the form and information is changing, we can go back and surface all of the right validations to make sure that everything is in good order once it finally goes into those backend systems. And on top of that, bringing in multiple pieces of data from two separate distinct systems and validating them on the front end before pushing them on their way back.
So that effectively removes a lot of manual effort of like claims folks like calling customers and like making sure information is correct or correcting for forms that might have been filled out improperly because of the problems with PDFs.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to a great customer example, one of our customers was trying to figure out how to get updated addresses, and it's kind of hard to actually listen to someone's address over the phone and get all of the right words, all the right weird named streets. And what they were able to do is actually just send out a very light text message to make sure that a customer's address was up to date, and with an actual pre-filled Google Maps address filler, they could get that address back in half the time of someone calling without anyone being involved. So just sending out a quick notification to let that customer know to update their address was as simple as getting that address back into the system. And so it all starts with these hundreds of building blocks that Airkit provides, whether it's a scheduler, e-signatures, PCI compliant payments, even media uploads. Say we still have to get those old PDFs, we have the ability to tap in and upload them straight from within Airkit. Progress bars for those long running processes, maps for kind of contextual in the moment problems, even connecting into your IVR systems and allowing deflection straight from out there, or build your own, having the flexibility to build these controls that are, unique to your business's needs. And then taking all of those blocks, taking all those building blocks and bringing them together for these really rich experiences, whether it's call scheduling, CSAT surveys, renewals, digital payments, having this kind of portfolio of digital experience so that when we go and have to solve our next problem, we have the solutions we need to go and deliver even faster than before. And so we package up all of those forms, all of those digital experiences, and we bring them into our Experience Studio. And Austin, I might ask you to mute just shortly for me, just because the airplane behind you is a little bit loud. Thank you. We'll bring you back on once the plane lands. Thanks. It's very themed with Airkit. We're a very air branded company, but yeah, a little too branded there. So going back to Studio, taking in all these digital forms, all of these components, and being able to have your single developer deliver experiences that used to take teams of 6, right? Having what used to take a full React team, an infrastructure person, an integrations engineer, a data engineer, time to deliver these full experiences and make sure that they are secure and on scalable infrastructure, you can now do in one single application, this all-in-one suite with Experience Studio. And so what do we do for the insurance industry in particular? Well, here are just a few examples that we've really excelled in. One is around customer enrollment, allowing a customer to receive kind of their self-service notification and fill out the information on their own time as they see fit. Self-service policy administration. So actually, when I update my own information, I don't need to call in every single time in order to update my individualized experiences. I can now have that self-service journey to update my address, update a new dependent, allow myself to kind of give me the flexibility to do the things on my own time, as well as even claims automation. These are those long-running processes of letting a customer know when a claim moves from different stages so that we're able to build those loyal experiences so that as soon as I fill out that claim through a low-touch experience, I can actually now get notified when I need to provide individual updates, when I get assigned new tasks for even uploading photos or uploading PDFs or letting people know about different locations or different parties involved. I have these multi-touch options that my agents can also click into and trigger at a moment's notice and allow them to take advantage of hundreds of customer flows rather than calling one at a time. And our customers have seen incredible success in terms of implementing these self-service digital flows across service and sales. So I'm going to actually double click into the MetLife and Farmers Insurance stories right here. So for MetLife, we were able to see a 50% increase in completion rates and dropped NIGO to 0% for that first initial form for them. So the way they were able to do this is building those self-service journeys with the nudging and the anticipation that they needed in order to get customers from point A to point Z in half the time. As well as with Farmers Insurance, who is using us for sales experiences, right? So kind of increasing their ability to connect and allowing a customer a much easier digital engagement and pushing those follow-ups through nudging and allowing them to really drive through an initial form. And so with MetLife, they're envisioning how to take all of these digital or all these paper forms and push them into digital processes. So it's a long-running project, but starting step at a time, they're seeing the value of taking what was an old process of paper forms, or even those digital versions of paper forms that we saw earlier, and building those hyper-personalized experiences that help customers solve their problem without adding any additional craft. And then finally, we always get these questions of, how do I make sure that this platform is going to meet my business's needs? Well, Airkit is SOC 2 compliant, HIPAA compliant. We're powered on the latest and greatest infrastructure platforms. So across the board, we focus on compliance, security, trust, scale, availability, accessibility. All of these things are top of mind as we go about delivering best-in-class experiences. So whenever we show up into these conversations, we can make sure that our customer knows that this is top of mind for us, and that allowing us to deliver these quickly, make sure that you aren't just building great experience, but you're deploying them securely and quickly as well. And so with that, I'm going to now jump into a demo, and I will find where the screen share went. And I might need to ask, because you're on mute again, but.
It's the top right where the mute and hide camera buttons are. That's the.
I lost my camera button. Oh, you know what? I closed it so I can see the sides. Thank you, Austin. The fun of webinar software.
The internet's going to be a big thing someday, I promise.
All right. You can see my screen, yes?
That's great.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. So we're about to jump through an Airco experience, and I am going to actually control it straight from my phone. This is all built with Airkit, a clicks and code experience. We'll show you right after we jump through this demo how easy it is to build an experience like this, running on my mobile device, and it's tapping into our Guidewire Claim Center and pulling the right claims information for this individualized customer. So we'll jump into a policy. With just a few clicks, I'm going to be able to set my create a new claim. I was told that our policy is only working from 2022, so we're going to jump back a full year and actually pulling in information from our Guidewire Claim Center what this customer is allowed to actually, or what is part of that policy as well. So in this case, let's go with an insect bite. That's always fun. Bit by a spider. Classic problem. And I am in Palm Springs today, hence the shirt. So we'll keep going from here. I'll click next. I'm filling out who got bit by that spider. And you're about to see all of this information being captured on the front end and pushed straight back into the Guidewire Claim Center. So that was me, self. We're looking over, so all that data that we just collected is still being captured as we go on that front end and shown to the customer so that they can ensure all of this data is correct before they submit it. We're going to go ahead and click submit. It's submitted, and I am now going to show you in the Claim Center exactly the policy, or exactly the claim we just created on that individual policy. So 000002211. And there you go. Palm Springs and bit by a spider. So we're taking this information and using the Airkit system, processing all that data and pushing it back into Guidewire. So any sort of backend system, and providing this great customer experience without the customer ever knowing that Guidewire is running behind the scenes. So whether it's Salesforce, Duck Creek, or all those other systems, we have the ability to tap into them and push data back and forth between that customer experience. So let's jump into how I was able to build this very lightweight Airco experience. Well, it all starts inside of Experience Studio. And so what we'll look at is this file a claim full flow. And all of this is presented as individualized pages. And if we jump into one of those pages, you can see these are all individual controls and components. So we'll jump into this container list, this container itself, and a call to action and labels are all being powered through individualized variables. And on the right side, you can even see how we're able to build each of those little experiences and actually capture the variables. And what we used to take a team of 6, we can now do with a team of 1, actually just dragging and dropping different components on the page and configuring them with our variable controls. And we can even do this with a little more rich experiences. So I wanted to show a quick one around actually building a map. And you might be saying, okay, a map isn't that hard. And that's true. A map isn't that hard to build in React. But what is difficult is building a map that actually understands that you might have certain auto locations where you can go and fix your car, and actually surfing those on the map based on inputs and information that the user is operating directly on the page.
And that's you had a slide earlier that showed all these different types of components, because there's like dozens, if not hundreds, of these types of components that have that level of like rich integration that you can just drag and drop, right?
That's a great, I'm opening it right now just to show exactly that. So having all of those really rich components to be able to drag and drop onto the page, whether it's, various input types and ensuring that an email is an email or a time is a time, but even richer than that, right? The map, the payment buttons, accepting credit cards, even QR codes, allowing our customer to actually, have exactly the experience. Sorry, I was getting a call. Hopefully you can still hear me.
You're good.
Allowing those experiences to be developed quickly and build those into these kind of rich, seamless journeys as well. So good question.
So there's and then what this does is this teases, there's this like line that this threads between still giving developers the ability to customize these components, but saving them the sort of rote work of having to build something from scratch that isn't really a value add to the business.
Right. And I think about all of the digital experiences that businesses have to build. And this was a problem at Salesforce too, but with Salesforce, it was generally like, months at a time of building these portals. And customers had what I call the 1,000 paper cut problems, right? There are thousands potentially at most businesses of various like end-to-end customer journeys that need to be created quickly and solved for. Otherwise, they go straight to the call center. And so having this tool to be able to deliver within weeks on the most valuable customer experiences and go one by one, just knocking them out and having those controls that as you deliver this bigger and bigger portfolio of power, you're able to move faster and faster through the 1,000 paper cuts. And so with that, I think I'll throw it back to you, Austin. Are there any questions? And let me stop sharing my screen.
Thanks for the demo. And I know the airplane's coming back through again. I think I'm right by an airport. One of the questions that's in the chat right now is, what do you ever run into across a legacy system that needs to be pitched? And I think what that means is thrown out. And what are some of the red flags that indicate that type of decision? So I think I'm going to sort of like split that question for you, Zach. Is one, have we run into situations where customers were deciding whether they actually needed to rip out an old system? But then the part two of that is, can you talk about some of the more elaborate ways that Airkit has like worked with systems that didn't even have APIs, where we set up RPA processes in order to still make use of and automate that data?
Yeah, and maybe I'll start with that one first, because I think that one's an important one. So yeah, I think the way to tap into any legacy system, right, and make sure that we can leverage it for our customer experience on the front end is to have some form of an API, right? So being able to deliver even on those legacy systems an RPA that kind of understands, it can kind of quote unquote build that API around it while you focus on finding new ways to tap into it directly, allows a system like Airkit to be able to pull information and push information back into those systems and then deliver those great customer experiences and this kind of leads into the next question, while customers look to kind of build those best-in-class agent experiences. And what I've seen in some of our customers is that while they have their Airkit experience live, because we're all API configured and workflow based, they're able to actually swap out back-end systems without even taking down the front-end system, so that they're able to slowly transition certain customers into a new system using one single front-end experience and kind of creating that divergent moment of like, let's tap into both the old one and the new one, and then just with one switch begin to start moving customers' data into the new system as well. So I've seen some really like creative and ways to be able to tap into those old systems at the same time.
I think that's a really good point, because like when you talk about being a service provider to an insurance agency where or insurance companies where there's so many regulations, there's so many compliance hurdles to get over. New technology often takes longer because you have to ensure that nothing breaks in the process. And one of the things that Airkit has really prioritized is compatibility and integration, ease of integration, so that the limitation, so you remove some of those limitations and some of those hurdles so that insurance companies can move faster than they might have otherwise. And that's part of what the priority has been. Another question that's coming in from Adam Fenton is he's interested in potentially using AI to route forms. I want to tease some stuff because Airkit has some very exciting stuff coming around large language models, both on the building these form experiences, but also on chat experiences. So that like pay attention for that, because we have some very exciting stuff coming in the next month. And if you have questions about that, please reach out to us because we can route you into some early beta action. But Zach, I would love to hear your take on using AI around forms.
Yeah, and I think, it goes back to the APIs first and foremost. I think that's the big win with the AI movement, is that we are finally like democratized this ability to tap into AI without having to hire an ML engineer, right? To solve some very particular problem. We have this generalized AI possibility now. And so with that, what we can do is like take those experiences and take kind of that next best action and be able to guide customers exactly to the place they need to be with pretty relative confidence. And allowing us to do that makes kind of this new seamless experience of not even like anticipating, but really evolving the journey as you go step by step to understand those exact customer needs and take those 1,000 paper cuts and push them into the right queue at the right time in the right place. So, I mean, I think both you and I are really excited about what's going on in the AI space because it's going to allow these customer experience solutions where it's almost like having a digital assistant operate you through a business's kind of portfolio of problems.
Yeah, there's that. We were talking about this early on. Like when there's a moment where I need to call my insurance agency, like I want to feel like there's a human being on the other end of that. But there's also a point where I don't want to have to keep getting on the phone to update things or submit files or proof of an incident. And the ability to have those experiences on my phone just get generated where I can just take care of something and be done with it and know it's sent off. That's how you balance the like I got the personal, I could talk to a human being when I needed to, but I didn't have to spend time on the phone. I could handle something on my own device. And that's sort of where that balance, and AI is going to push push the standard of that even further. Another question.
Yeah, and I mean, I do want to, even before we jump to the next one, I do want to take that next question, but I do want to like kind of, maybe I'm ruining your punch in like a few months, but the idea of taking like the building side too, right? And having thousands of digital forms that have schemas and having an AI that can actually understand schema and build out forms quickly and faster than ever before, like from a building advantage, that's going to be a huge thing that we start seeing on the low code revolution. Is low code is going to evolve to also take in natural language of building out these low code experiences that can still be configured, but almost having a great starting point off of being generated from an AI. So yeah, sorry. I mean, we're both amped about a lot of the AI stuff, but I just wanted to throw that one in because I know that will also be a part of our story.
That's a good tease. We've got time for one or two more questions, I think. So in terms of digitizing forms, like PII, Airkit, how up to date is Airkit in terms of regional, national data protection, privacy, and regulatory compliance, Zach?
I mean, as we showed in that one slide, we take it very seriously. I think that's just generally, you know, when you're working with like enterprise companies, that you have to know that their consumer is the most important part of their business, right? So protecting our customers' consumers from any sort of like attacks or attack vectors, or even just the ability to feel that level of trust with the industry that they're working with. We go through compliance updates, you know, virtually every month to make sure that we are staying within those realms. And I think it's even worth calling out the feature functionality that we're building towards, right? So like as we begin to kind of complete our VPAT for WCAG 2.1 AA compliance, that's an exciting space for us to be able to say, like, look, we have the full accessibility process in lock. And then also with our new updates and features around PII, being able to tag individual fields of data as, you know, this is PII or this is a data that needs to be HIPAA compliant, so that as the data operates through the Airkit platform, we're keeping it secure and making sure that the backend systems that are tapping into that data have the right access controls. So this is something that I feel like is, you know, unique to the way that Airkit approaches low code, right? We see a lot of low code vendors in the space focused so heavily on the development experience and lacking on the infrastructure and security side. And we try to, you know, balance both of those, because it's not just about delivering quickly, it's about deploying quickly and making sure that your team has a trusted solution and a trusted vendor as you go to market.
And certainly we've earned the trust of companies like MetLife and some of the largest insurance and financial companies in the industry. So you've got a lot of confidence about you can have a lot of confidence about our ability to meet those regulatory hurdles and make that process of you meeting those faster, so you spend less time on that before you actually deliver these experiences to your customers. All right, I think this has been 45 minutes. Thanks everybody for attending. I actually watched the attendee count go up throughout the webinar, which I'm going to give all the credit to Zach on that, or maybe the airplanes. But in the handouts, you've got airkit.com/industry/insurance where you can check us out. There's a Discord link where our developers, our developer evangelists, and other folks can actually answer a bunch of your in-depth questions.
And me. Feel free to tag.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Zach's in there. So if you have more questions, want to follow up with stuff, we would love to chat with you and happy to share any more expertise. But thanks everybody so much for attending. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to chatting with you on Discord or giving you a demo on a Zoom call later.
Oh, Scott, you're on mute.
No sound from you, Scott.
Thanks. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
We can.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was just coming around to say thanks. Great presentation, and really appreciate the discussion.
Thank you.
All right, and before we wrap up, we have one more piece of business. It's the Amazon gift card prize drawing. And the winner of that $250 Amazon gift card is Nadu Gandam from California. So congratulations to Nadu. We'll be in touch to get you your card. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Zach and Austin and Airkit for making this event possible. And thanks as always for attending and for your great questions. That concludes today's event. Have a fantastic rest of your day.